What if I told you that the greatest confrontation of the 19th century unfolded in the endless labyrinths of sun-scorched canyons? Are you ready to learn the truth about a leader whose unyielding persistence made powerful empires nervous? This man relied solely on his phenomenal knowledge of nature and the incredible resilience of his few comrades. His strategy was based on invisibility, speed, and absolute blending into the harsh landscape of the American Southwest. Watch the video to the end to find out how this group of people led huge armies of pursuers by the nose for years. What if I told you that everything you believed in was not true? For the indigenous people of arid regions, land was never property enclosed by high wooden fences. They perceived the world around them as an open book, where every stone had its own special purpose. Their philosophy was based on a deep respect for the vast space that provided shelter. Understanding this inseparable connection between man and nature is the key to unraveling their incredible endurance. The traditional European understanding of territorial boundaries was completely foreign to these freedom-loving explorers. They did not build permanent, impregnable fortresses or try to hold on to specific pieces of land. Their true home was the entire vast territory from the Rocky Mountain ranges to the endless, dusty plains. They moved across these expanses following seasonal weather changes and the availability of fresh water. This constant movement shaped a particular way of thinking, completely detached from any one fixed point. Their main tactic was to never engage in direct confrontation unless absolutely necessary. They preferred to literally dissolve into the surrounding desert landscape, leaving their pursuers to wander in an endless maze. This unique ability to avoid conflict required the highest level of internal discipline and incredible self-control. They could remain completely motionless for hours, blending in completely with the background of dry vegetation and dust. This strategy was excellent for conserving energy and allowed them to maintain a tactical advantage in any unpredictable situation. The ability to disperse incredibly quickly was another important element of their open space philosophy. At the slightest possibility of a confrontation, a large group would instantly break up into many small and inconspicuous detachments. They quickly dispersed in different directions, leaving no clear traces on the hard rocky ground. After an agreed period of time, all participants in this maneuver safely met at a predetermined and safe location. To inexperienced pursuers, this sophisticated tactic looked like the magical disappearance of an entire camp. They never tried to conquer nature by force, but sought to become as harmonious and natural a part of it as possible. Their everyday clothing and light camping equipment were made from local plant materials and were perfectly suited to the climate. The color scheme of their outfits completely matched the natural shades of dry earth, sand, and withered grass. This made them practically invisible against the familiar and very monotonous desert landscape. Such completely natural camouflage was far superior to any artificial methods of concealment of that historical period. These amazing people's perception of time was also very different from the urban rhythm we are used to. They were in no hurry and did not try to fit into strict schedules or artificial frameworks. Their measured life was completely subject to the natural cycles of the changing seasons and the smooth movement of the heavenly bodies. Unlimited patience was considered one of the most important virtues of every respected member of this society. They could wait a very long time for the right moment without taking any rash or hasty actions. This unique philosophy of freedom made them completely immune to standard military methods of influence. They could not be locked up in a besieged fortress or deprived of supply lines that simply did not exist. They confidently found food and fresh water wherever their long and winding path took them. Their astonishing independence was based on a deep understanding of the strict laws of survival in a harsh environment. It was this strong inner sense of freedom that allowed them to challenge a huge bureaucratic empire for so long. The wisdom of this people continues to amaze many modern researchers even after many decades. Their careful approach to interacting with the natural environment remains highly relevant today. We would be very interested to hear your point of view. What do you think about this philosophical perception of a world without borders? Be sure to write about it in the comments. And be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on new fascinating historical research. Are you ready to learn the truth about how these elusive conquerors of the desert moved? Their amazing ability to move silently across very difficult terrain amazed the imagination of many of their contemporaries. They developed a whole system of stealth movement, which rightfully became the pinnacle of the art of field survival. Each of their steps was carefully calculated, and every movement was thought out down to the smallest detail. They moved as if the sandy desert itself carefully parted before them, hiding them from prying eyes. The basis of this skill was their impeccable ability to place their feet correctly on any surface, even the most difficult ones. They stepped softly, shifting their body weight gradually to avoid the crunch of dry branches or the rustle of stones. Their traditional soft-soled shoes allowed them to feel the slightest unevenness in the terrain and avoid making noise. This walking technique required tremendous muscle tension and incredible concentration for long hours. Thanks to this, they were able to pass unnoticed by heavily guarded observation posts in the pitch darkness of night. They were also adept at using weather conditions to conceal their large-scale movements. Strong winds that kicked up thick dust were considered the ideal time for long and inconspicuous marches. Heavy rain reliably washed away all traces and significantly dulled the vigilance of bored pursuers. They never complained about bad weather, but saw it as a valuable gift that helped them stay invisible. Nature was always their most reliable shield in this endless battle of wits and endurance. They navigated the terrain using the smallest natural landmarks and signs, invisible to outsiders. They unerringly determined the cardinal directions by the growth of certain mosses or the shape of the crowns of solitary trees. The starry sky served as their most accurate and reliable navigation map during long night journeys. They memorized the outlines of mountain ranges from different angles, which allowed them to never stray from their chosen course. Their internal mental map of the terrain was much more accurate than any paper drawings of the time. Particular attention was paid to the ability to maintain complete silence during short stops and when setting up camp. They communicated with each other using a complex system of conventional gestures, completely eliminating the need for loud conversations. Tools and everyday items were packed so that they did not make the slightest noise when walking quickly. Even lighting a small fire was done using a special technique that produced virtually no thick smoke. This remarkable discipline of silence was the key to their overall safety and successful covert maneuvering. Crossing water obstacles was also done according to carefully developed and time-tested secret rules. They chose places with the hardest rocky bottom so as not to muddy the water or leave traces on the shore. Entry and exit from the water was always carried out in places densely overgrown with tall reeds or tough shrubs. Wet clothes were immediately dried on the go so as not to leave wet spots on light-colored stones. Every detail was taken into account in order to completely eliminate the possibility of accidental discovery of the detachment. Their skill in invisible movement remained unmatched throughout the long years of harsh historical confrontation. They turned their skills into a perfect tool for survival and reliable protection of their boundless freedom. This level of physical fitness required incredible endurance and years of persistent training. How difficult do you think it would be for a modern city dweller to master such ancient techniques of navigation? In the next chapter, you will learn how these amazing people found clean water in an absolutely arid desert. The secret passed down from generation to generation lies in the unique ability to read the desert. What looked like a lifeless wasteland to the average unprepared traveler was a rich storehouse for them. They knew the properties of each plant well and knew how to use them with maximum practical benefit. From certain types of cacti, they extracted not only life-saving moisture, but also highly nutritious pulp. Various edible roots and wild seeds served as the most reliable source of energy during long journeys. Finding water in the arid lands of the Southwest was the most difficult task for any expedition. However, these indigenous people had an amazing ability to identify hidden underground sources by barely noticeable signs. They paid attention to subtle changes in soil color and the appearance of specific moisture-loving plants. They knew exactly which rocky crevices could retain rainwater for months on end. These secret reservoirs were carefully hidden from outsiders and used only in extreme cases. Their diet was adapted as much as possible to the scarce resources of their harsh natural environment. The basis of their diet was mesquite tree fruit, which was carefully ground into nutritious, sweet flour. This flour was used to bake special flatbread that could be stored for a long time and did not spoil in the heat. Various edible bulbs, nuts, and berries collected during the short spring flowering season served as supplements. This simple diet provided the body with all the nutrients necessary to maintain high physical activity. The ability to preserve food for long periods of time was another essential survival skill in the wilderness. The pulp of the agave was baked in deep earthen ovens for several days until it became a thick syrup. This sweet mass was then dried in the hot sun, turning it into compact and high-calorie briquettes. These briquettes were taken on the longest and most dangerous journeys as an inviolable strategic reserve. Such methods of food preparation allowed them to make journeys without being distracted by the constant search for food. The use of plant materials was not limited to finding food and obtaining fresh water. From the fibers of yucca and agave, they wove strong ropes, light baskets, and reliable hiking sandals. The wood of various shrubs served as an excellent material for making bows, light arrows, and the frames of dwellings. The resin of some trees was used to waterproof woven vessels for long-term water storage. Nature provided them with absolutely everything they needed for a comfortable and safe existence, far from civilization. The heat was no less dangerous an enemy than thirst or the lack of familiar European food. To avoid heat stroke, they tried to travel only in the early morning or late cool evening. They spent the hottest hours of the day in the shade of rocks or in specially built ventilated shelters. Their clothing was as loose as possible and allowed air to pass through easily, protecting their skin from direct sunlight. They knew how to regulate their body temperature by consuming liquids in strictly defined small portions. The art of harmonious existence in the wilderness was the main and most valuable weapon of this proud people. It allowed them to remain free and independent throughout a very long period of history. Their knowledge of nature amazes even modern environmental scientists with its depth and practicality. This invaluable experience proves that humans are capable of adapting to the most incredible and difficult conditions. If you like this unusual story about survival in harsh conditions, be sure to like this video. What was found in the old dusty archives completely changes the perception of this people's tactics. Their main and most effective method was to create a huge number of false trails on rocky ground. They deliberately confused the routes, forcing their numerous pursuers to waste time solving complex spatial puzzles. A group could walk in one direction for a long time and then disappear without a trace into a dry and deep gorge. This ingenious strategy of constant evasion exhausted their opponents much more than any exhausting and long journeys. The essence of this strategy was a complete rejection of the traditional understanding of direct and open conflict. If they noticed superior forces, they never tried to build a line of defense or hold their positions. Instead, they preferred to make a flanking maneuver and let the enemy advance into absolute emptiness. They masterfully played with space, forcing strangers to stretch out their long and clumsy supply columns. The further the pursuers strayed from their bases, the more vulnerable and helpless they gradually became. They were excellent at dividing the attention of their pursuers, creating the illusion of being in several places at once. Several people could make loud noises in one canyon, attracting all of their opponent's main forces there. At the same time, the main group quietly slipped away through another, completely unguarded mountain pass. This constant juggling of attention prevented the enemy from concentrating all their resources in a single point. They always stayed one step ahead, anticipating any standard actions of the slow-moving expeditionary forces. Another important element of this strategy was the use of complex and unpredictable terrain to their advantage. They lured their pursuers into narrow gorges, where the sheer size of the detachment lost all practical meaning. In such cramped stone pockets, long columns lost their mobility and the ability to quickly deploy their formations. They could easily move along steep slopes, remaining completely out of reach of any attack. Nature itself became an insurmountable obstacle for those who did not know its secret paths and passages. This strategy of evasion required excellent coordination and absolute mutual trust between all participants in the crossing. When the group split up, everyone knew exactly where and when the next meeting would take place in a safe place. They did not use paper maps or compasses, relying solely on their perfect visual memory. Codes left on rocks or trees helped those who fell behind quickly find the right direction. This flawless internal navigation system worked without a hitch for many difficult years. This tactic became a classic example of how a sharp mind can outsmart brute force. They convincingly proved that the ability to avoid conflict at the right time is often much more effective than active confrontation. Their unique methods are still studied with great interest by researchers of historical geography and tactics. Why engage in open confrontation at all when you can simply force your opponent to retreat from complete exhaustion? In the next chapter, you will learn how their unique and incredibly mobile way of life was organized. The daily life of these resilient people was completely subordinated to the harsh necessity of quickly changing their current location. They never burdened themselves with heavy possessions that could significantly slow down their rapid advance. Their typical dwellings were very light frames made of flexible branches, covered with readily available plant materials. Such a simple shelter could be erected in just a couple of hours and abandoned just as quickly in case of alarm. Their entire rich material culture was incredibly functional and characterized by strict, thoughtful minimalism. The basis of their community was a small family group capable of completely autonomous existence in the desert. These close-knit groups could easily unite into larger associations to solve common, complex tasks. And just as easily, they disbanded when there was an urgent need to secretly disperse across the terrain. This remarkable social flexibility made their society extremely resistant to any external shocks and threats. They did not have a single center, the destruction of which could lead to the demise of the entire culture. Particular attention was paid to the care of footwear, as the life of each member of the group depended on its condition. Sandals were sewn from the most durable materials and regularly repaired during stops using plant fibers. Everyone always had a spare pair with them in case of unexpected wear and tear during a long march. They understood perfectly well that the loss of the ability to move quickly meant inevitable capture or imminent death. Therefore, they took great care of their feet, carefully choosing their path among sharp rocks and thorny desert plants. The organization of a temporary camp was also subject to strict rules to ensure maximum safety and secrecy from observers. The camp was always set up in depressions in the terrain so that the silhouettes of people would not stand out against the light sky. Fires were only lit in special small pits, which perfectly hid the bright flames from prying eyes in the dark. At the slightest sign of danger, the camp was instantly dismantled, leaving no trace of its existence. They knew how to disappear as quickly and quietly as they had appeared in a new, unknown place. Women played a huge and irreplaceable role in organizing this complex mobile life in the desert. They were responsible for gathering edible plants, collecting fresh water, and setting up shelters. They were also highly skilled in the art of stealthy movement and could endure the same heavy loads as the men. In case of danger, women were ready to defend their families on their own and take them to a safe place. Their endurance and incredible fortitude earned the sincere admiration of even their most implacable opponents. This nomadic lifestyle shaped their unique and reverent attitude toward the surrounding nature. They did not try to reshape the world to suit their needs, but masterfully adapted to its harsh demands. Every tree and every stream was perceived as a temporary and very generous gift that must be treated with respect. They took only as much as they needed to survive, never depleting the scarce resources of their territory. This harmony with nature was the key to their longevity as an independent and very proud people. Their mobile lifestyle was not a sign of primitiveness, but the result of the highest adaptation to extreme environmental conditions. It was a complex, well-thought-out system of survival that had no analogs in world history. They proved that true strength lies not in thick stone walls, but in the ability to remain elusive. This concept of constant movement allowed them to survive many upheavals and preserve their unique cultural heritage. Their history is a hymn to incredible human resilience and an unyielding desire for boundless freedom. The hidden truth that everyone keeps quiet about lies in the true nature of their unique and natural leadership. They never had formal commanders with gold epaulets or a rigid hierarchical system of forced obedience. Only those who proved their great wisdom, personal experience, and incredible luck through their actions became leaders. Authority was not inherited at all. It had to be earned every day through right actions. It was precisely such a recognized and respected leader who became a man whose name has forever entered the world's historical chronicles. His influence was based on his phenomenal ability to anticipate the actions of his opponents and find the only correct solutions. He did not give dry orders. but proposed a well-thought-out plan that was agreed upon by the majority of the members of the independent group. If anyone strongly disagreed with the proposed strategy, they were free to leave the group at any time. However, his intuition and deep knowledge saved lives so often that people preferred to always follow him. It was leadership based on absolute voluntary consent and the deepest respect for his outstanding personal qualities. This leader had an excellent understanding of the psychology of his comrades and knew how to keep their spirits high. In the most difficult moments of exhausting journeys, he always remained completely calm and instilled confidence in those around him. He never placed himself above others and always shared all the hardships and scarce resources equally with the community. Such sincere modesty and fairness attracted people to him much more than any loud promises or threats. He was not a strict boss, but rather a wise and very experienced senior mentor to everyone. Even his opponents were forced to acknowledge his outstanding organizational skills and sharp mind with undisguised respect. They understood that they were not dealing with a random group, but with a well-organized and cohesive structure. All their attempts to discredit this leader or sow discord among his comrades ended in complete failure. His unquestionable authority was a kind of cement that held people together in the most unbearable conditions. He was the true heart and brain of this unique mobile community for many decades. It is important to note that his management style was radically different from the strict European standards of that historical period. He never punished people for their mistakes, but made them learn useful lessons from their own mistakes. Training took place through personal example and calm, detailed instruction around the evening campfire in a safe shelter. This instilled in people a deep sense of personal responsibility for the overall success of their small group. It was this high level of awareness that made them incredibly effective in conditions of constant harsh persecution. His name gradually became a true legend, surrounded by many incredible rumors and frankly fantastic stories. He was credited with supernatural abilities, such as the ability to pass through solid rock or become completely invisible. Although these rumors were merely exaggerations, they worked perfectly to strengthen his authority and demoralize his opponents. He himself never denied such myths, fully understanding their enormous value for psychological pressure. This carefully crafted aura of mystery was a powerful addition to his real outstanding organizational skills. His long journey showed that the true greatness of a leader is measured not by the number of subordinates, but by the level of their trust. He managed to unite people in conditions where any other community would inevitably have fallen apart into small pieces. His management methods, based on respect and personal freedom, proved to be highly effective in practice. Leadership was based on deep mutual trust and a complete understanding of the common vital goals of the entire group. Was such natural leadership more just than the strict hierarchy of traditional army management systems? In the next chapter, you will learn how they use the complex natural terrain for their perfect camouflage. Nature has generously endowed the southwestern territories with incredibly complex and confusing rocky terrain. Deep gorges alternated with high plateaus, and endless sandy wastelands suddenly ended in steep canyons. To the untrained eye, this chaos of rocks and dry shrubs seemed completely unsuitable for long and comfortable existence. However, these people learned to use every fold of the terrain as a reliable shield and excellent cover from outsiders. The terrain was their most loyal ally in a long and exhausting confrontation with the superior forces of their opponents. They never set up their hidden camps on flat, open areas that were clearly visible from all sides. Preference was always given to narrow stone terraces, reliably hidden behind high natural rock ledges. Only secret, barely noticeable paths, known exclusively to members of a particular community, led to such places. From these hidden positions, they could safely observe the movements of huge search parties far below around the clock. At the same time, they themselves remained completely invisible, blending in with the gray-brown background of the high rocks surrounding them. Deep crevices in the rocks and numerous karst caves served as reliable natural storage areas and shelters. There they left reserve supplies of dried food, woven jugs of water, and spare lightweight camping equipment. In case their camp was suddenly discovered, they could abandon all their possessions and hide in these prepared places. The presence of such hiding places throughout the vast territory allowed them to travel light and always have access to the necessary resources. No regular expedition could afford such incredible luxury in these arid and wild lands. Moving along steep rock faces was as natural to them as walking on flat ground. They knew all the reliable ledges and hidden crevices that allowed them to safely overcome dizzying heights. Where their pursuers needed complex rope systems and hours of preparation, they climbed in a matter of minutes. This phenomenal ability to move vertically at speed often stumped even the most experienced army instructors. They could simply vanish before their opponent's eyes by climbing a sheer wall into the nearest deep canyon. The movement of the sun and the changing of long shadows were also taken into account when planning any covert movements in open terrain. They always tried to move on the shady side of deep ravines to avoid accidental detection from above. At sunrise and sunset, when the sun blinded observers, they made the longest and most risky transitions. The ability to correctly assess lighting conditions and choose the safest route was a critical skill. They seemed to play a complex game of hide and seek with the sun itself, always remaining in the safety and coolness of the shadows. They used stones and dry branches not only to set up camp, but also to create complex false landmarks. Small pyramids of stones could indicate a false direction of movement or imitate the presence of camouflaged observers. Such tricks made their opponents constantly doubt the correctness of their chosen path and slowed their progress. They turned nature itself into a huge and very confusing puzzle that only they themselves could solve. This constant tension and the need to solve riddles was incredibly exhausting for any search expedition. Their incredible skill at camouflage and brilliant use of the terrain became a true classic of survival in extreme conditions. They proved that the human mind is capable of finding the perfect hiding place, even in the most seemingly lifeless desert. These methods still inspire sincere admiration and are closely studied by orienteering specialists around the world. They remain forever unsurpassed masters of blending in with the harsh and unpredictable nature of the American Southwest. This unique skill was the main guarantee of their long and very successful confrontation with the huge machine. The success of their long and incredibly difficult journeys depended largely on their ingenious system of supplying everything they needed. They had no cumbersome wooden wagons, heavy carts, or long, vulnerable supply lines. Their mobile logistics were based on the principles of maximum lightness, strict self-sufficiency, and the ability to use local resources. Each person was their own porter, quartermaster, and supply officer, which ensured unprecedented autonomy. This approach allowed them to cover enormous distances without depending on supplies from distant central bases. Their traditional camping equipment was perfected to the ideal of minimalism and the highest practical functionality. They took nothing superfluous with them, leaving all heavy and non-essential household items at home. The sleeping bag was replaced by a single light but very warm woolen blanket, which was used as a comfortable cape during the day. Water containers were made from cleaned intestines or thick woven baskets coated with waterproof resin from coniferous trees. When folded, these containers took up almost no space and weighed nothing in a backpack. The ability to quickly find food right on the route was another important element of their unique logistics. They knew perfectly well which edible plants could be found in a particular gorge at a particular time of year. This information allowed them to plan their long routes so that they could replenish their food supplies as they progressed. They perceived the surrounding desert not as an empty and lifeless barrier, but as a huge, sprawling pantry. This freed them from having to carry heavy bags with several days' worth of food. Securing clean, fresh water was the most difficult task, but they coped with it brilliantly. They knew the location of tiny springs hidden in the rocks, capable of watering only a few people at a time. In order not to draw unnecessary attention to these places of refuge, they never stayed near them for too long. After filling their small containers, they immediately left for a safe shelter, carefully covering up all traces of their presence. This knowledge was passed on as the greatest secret and was the basis of their independence from external water sources. They were also skilled at making use of the resources left behind by their clumsy and slow opponents. Metal cans, pieces of wire, and scraps of fabric left behind at campsites quickly found new practical uses. They knew how to turn other people's trash into useful tools, repair their equipment, or create sharp points. This remarkable thriftiness and incredible ingenuity allowed them to make up for the shortage of materials without visiting settlements. They literally fed off those who tried to pursue them across these arid and harsh territories. Their speed of movement was the best defense against any problems with long-term planning and supplies. In a single day, they could cover a distance that would take their heavily laden opponents a whole week. This meant that they simply did not need to carry much food and water to cross arid areas. They slipped through dangerous areas faster than they could deplete their meager and light internal reserves. Mobility replaced cumbersome warehouses and turned speed itself into the group's main logistical resource. Their unique mobile supply system still amazes the imagination with its flawless logic and simplicity. It was the perfect response to the harsh challenges of a complex environment and constant external pressure. This light-footed logistics allowed them to remain free and independent in conditions where others quickly perished. They proved that true mobility is achieved not by accumulating things, but by the ability to get by with the bare minimum. This incredible experience is an outstanding example of the ideal adaptation of humans to the most extreme conditions of existence. Their incredible success in resisting their opponents was due not only to physical endurance, but also to a powerful psychological impact. They brilliantly understood the mindset of their pursuers and masterfully played on their hidden fears and insecurities. Their very invisibility and ability to disappear into the desert created an oppressive atmosphere of constant and inevitable danger. Opponents accustomed to open formations and clear rules found themselves in a state of profound psychological shock. The feeling that every step you took was being watched from behind the rocks exhausted people much more than the intense heat. They purposefully and very skillfully created a dense aura of absolute omnipresence and invulnerability around themselves. The appearance of their characteristic but false tracks in completely impossible places made their opponents doubt their own sanity. They could leave a sign made of stones right at the edge of an enemy camp without waking a single guard. These silent messages clearly told their pursuers that their safety was only a temporary and very fragile illusion. Such sophisticated psychological terror deprived their opponents of sleep and greatly reduced their overall vigilance and morale. They understood perfectly well that boredom and long routines are the worst enemies of discipline in any large unit. Therefore, they could remain inactive for weeks, forcing their pursuers to relax and lose their vigilance. Then they would suddenly remind them of their presence with a loud cry from the gorge or a rockfall without making contact. These unexpected reminders kept their opponents in a state of constant stress and nervous anticipation. An invisible threat always frightens the human mind much more than a real and clearly visible enemy in the field. They also knew how to use natural sounds to increase the general psychological discomfort of their numerous pursuers. Imitating the voices of night birds or the howling of the wind served as an excellent means of covert communication over vast distances. However, to outsiders, these unfamiliar sounds in the night desert often seem supernatural and frightening. They filled the darkness with frightening noises, depriving tired people of the opportunity to rest properly before a difficult day's journey. This auditory pressure was a very simple but incredibly effective tactic for sapping the vitality of strangers. Their ability to endure tremendous hardship also served as a powerful tool for psychological domination in this conflict. When their opponents were exhausted from thirst and heat, they demonstrated incredible vigor and the ability to make quick bursts of speed. This clearly showed their pursuers their complete unsuitability for life in these harsh and unforgiving lands. The realization of their own physical inferiority compared to these people greatly undermined their belief in the ultimate success of the expeditions. They defeated their opponents not physically, but by forcing them to voluntarily acknowledge their own profound helplessness. Even their famous leader used his unquestionable authority to put psychological pressure on the expedition leaders. The mere mention of his name often caused trepidation and made opponents act overly cautious and indecisive. They understood that they were facing an outstanding intellect capable of calculating their actions several steps ahead. This fear of one man's genius paralyzed the will of entire huge and well-equipped detachments. Intellectual superiority became as important a factor in their survival as knowledge of secret underground water sources. These methods of information warfare and covert psychological pressure remain highly relevant and are still studied today. They have gone down in history as unsurpassed masters of manipulating others' perceptions and controlling deep human fears. Their superiority lay in their profound understanding of the nature of the human mind and its natural weaknesses. The era of this incredible and very long confrontation left a deep mark on the history of the American Southwest. The leader, whose name made powerful agencies tremble, became a symbol of absolute steadfastness and unyielding willpower. His survival methods and unique strategies of covert movement still inspire great admiration among researchers. He showed the whole world how a small group of dedicated people can challenge a huge bureaucratic machine for years. His life became an instructive legend about how intelligence and knowledge of nature always prevail over brute force. For many years, they successfully avoided any attempts to restrict their natural freedom of movement across their native and familiar expanses. Their tactics of constant evasion and use of complex terrain made them completely unreachable for standard expeditions. They preserved their traditional way of life in conditions where it seemed completely impossible from a logical point of view. Their phenomenal endurance and incredible dedication to their ideals allowed them to hold out longer than all other independent groups. It was truly an epic confrontation between the human spirit and a ruthless system of total control of space. Despite these global changes, their legendary leader continued to demonstrate miracles of strategic ingenuity and cunning. Until the very end, he skillfully exploited any mistakes made by his opponents and masterfully avoided what seemed to be an inevitable confrontation. His name became synonymous with the highest degree of elusiveness and remarkable natural wit in extreme conditions. Even in the most difficult moments, he retained his high authority and deep respect among his loyal comrades. He was the living embodiment of the spirit of freedom, which could not be broken by any external artificial constraints. Ultimately, this long story came to an end not because of defeat, but as a result of a complex set of diplomatic decisions. They made this difficult decision collectively, realizing that further existence in the previous mobile format was becoming physically impossible. It was a pragmatic choice made for the sake of preserving the lives of their loved ones and the future of their unique and proud people. They were not broken or defeated in direct confrontation. They simply accepted the new, inevitable rules of the global game. Their spirit remained as strong and absolutely independent as it had been in the endless expanses of their native deserts. This leader himself spent his last years maintaining enormous inner dignity and the incredible calm of a sage. He willingly shared his unique knowledge of nature and the philosophy of life with those who were willing to listen carefully. His sharp mind and excellent memory allowed him to preserve many important details of their former, very harsh nomadic life. He became a living bridge between two completely different eras, connecting ancient traditions with the new reality that was dawning. Until his very last breath, he remained a true symbol of the unyielding and proud spirit of his unique people. His figure has long gone beyond the scope of ordinary historical chronicles, becoming a true global cultural phenomenon of our time. Dozens of serious research books have been written about him, detailed documentaries have been made, and beautiful legends have been composed. His name is often used as a metaphor for incredible perseverance and the ability to withstand the most difficult and unpredictable circumstances. He showed that true leadership and deep devotion to one's ideals can leave an eternal mark on the memory of humanity. The story of his life continues to inspire millions of people to seek inner strength and harmony with their surroundings. Their story is forever inscribed in the complex and multifaceted chronicle of the exploration of the vast American wilderness of the 19th century. They are now gone, but their incredible spirit remains forever in the whisper of the dry wind and the deep shadows of the majestic canyons. Which of these ancient survival skills do you think are still relevant in our fast-paced and technological age? Suggest topics for future videos that you would like to see on our channel in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on new exciting episodes about the mysteries of the historical past.